Our first guest is a testimony of how a few seconds can change a life. Here to tell us his story is motivational speaker, author, educator, and coach Bobby Petrocelli. Welcome to the show.
Thank you so much, Karen. Absolutely honored to be here today.
Well, we appreciate your coming in to talk to us. Now, tell us what led you to become a motivational speaker.
Tragically, over 30 years ago, while asleep in bed in Texas, I was married to my wife for 2.5 years, go to bed one Thursday night after coaching in a football game, get back late at night, have a little dinner myself, like 11 o'clock at night, basically crawl into bed next to her 20 minutes later. She's almost asleep, and literally wake up an hour later, I'm sitting in my dining room window, and there is a full-size F-150 Ford pickup truck parked in the middle of my house. Long story short, a drunk driver who lived further in my development was traveling approximately 70 miles an hour at approximately 12:30 in the morning, lost control of his truck, comes off the road, and literally travels, Karen, the length of a football field through my back brick bedroom wall. We were a ranch-style home, ran me over completely, flipped me up on the hood of the truck, landed on my wife, went through the next wall, deposited me in the dining room window. She ended up suffocating because the sheets and the mattress wrapped around her face and body so tight, she was caught under the truck.
Oh my, that's tragic. And it probably took how many seconds?
Moments. I tell people all the time, Karen, you hear the expression in life, take life one day at a time. And I throw out to people, life doesn't happen one day at a time. It happens one moment at a time. And I always tell people where my whole organization, 10 seconds, came from, is I tell people life happens in a matter of 10 seconds or less. And if you could understand that every 10 seconds, every moment has the power to impact not only my life, your life, but the lives of others as it prepares us for the decisions, choices, patterns, habits, and routines we make.
Now, what is your primary message when you go to speak to audiences? Because you speak to a lot of audiences, young, old, business.
Well, mostly the number one audience I speak to are educational groups. Because when I went through the tragedy, it was the kids at the high school that literally rescued me. They loved on me. They showed me, as my program is called, You Matter. They showed me how much I mattered. And that, listen, coach, we're not going to let you let this stop you. It doesn't define you. So literally from that, for literally almost 30 years, I've been traveling this nation, letting people know, number one, how much they matter. Number two, that there is power in every decision they make. But number three, probably one of the most important things, they are not defined by where they've been hurt or broken in life. And I use the man who drove drunk as an analogy. The simplicity of him abusing alcohol was he was trying to anesthetize the pain of his broken heart. Every one of us, Karen, in life have been broken. But there's degrees of brokenness. And what we end up doing more often than not is we run to the wrong thing to anesthetize the pain that tells us we don't matter. I'm here to tell my audiences, you do matter. And you are not defined by the bad that has been done to you or even mistakes you have made. Because there's always a why behind the what. And I try to help my audience understand there's a why that you feel, think, act, react, or as somebody else the way they treat you, there's a why. And the more we go after the root behind it, the better we're going to be.
So it's about choices.
It's about choices and about understanding where we have been hurt. The major thing I really try to go after is helping them to identify where they've been hurt and broken and choices that are made out of that hurt and brokenness. If it's not positive, it's always going to be negative, and it doesn't only hurt us, it hurts others in the long run.
Absolutely. What is your favorite part about doing what you do?
The response I get from the audiences, especially with educational groups and even people in general. Here's the number one phrase I get at the end of a program. I thought it was my fault that, and then they go down the list, that I was abused, that I was beaten, that my father's an alcoholic, my mother's a drug addict, my parents split, and they go down the line. Or somebody had prejudice and racism against me. Today you made it clear that the reason why I've been mistreated or wounded or broken or hurt is somebody else didn't deal with their pain. I became the target, not on purpose all the time, but I became the outcome of them not dealing with their hurt and pain. And if I don't deal with my hurt and pain, I'm going to continually go down a road that catches up with me in a negative way.
So it's a vicious cycle.
It's a vicious cycle. And I talked to a woman recently in a restaurant in Pennsylvania, and she was telling me about her dad is in prison. He's about to get out after being there for 16 years, and her exact words to me is, boy, I hope he learned his lesson. And I looked her in the face and said, the only way he, me, or any of us learn our lesson of the wrong we do or have done is when we get our brokenness healed. If we don't, we're going to continually repeat those behaviors.
Now, you've written several books.
Right.
Can you talk about 10 Seconds Will Change Your Life?
One of my main books, it was first called Triumph Over Tragedy, then it was called 10 Seconds Will Change Your Life Forever, and then it incorporated into You Matter, It Doesn't, Leaving Your It Behind, showing people that life happens 10 seconds or less,
Right.
but yet when people would come to me, Karen, all the time, and they would look at me and say, Bobby, you got to take it one day at a time. And I would look at them, Karen, and say, are you crazy? I can't get through this moment.
Right.
I can't even think if, let's say it's 10 o'clock right now, I can't get to 10:05 in my mind. But if I take it 10 seconds at a time, one moment at a time, before you know it, I have a minute, a half an hour, a day, a week, a month. So I show and help and teach people in dealing with what they have to deal with, they need to deal with the moment that they are in. And one of the phrases I use for the longest time is, don't let the pain of the past or the fear of the future stop you from being present in the present. We only have this present moment. And it's just like driving a car. I can't live in the rear view mirror, I'm gonna crash. I have a big windshield, I could glance, but I can't live there.
And we have a tendency, I know, myself included, to worry about things that may happen tomorrow when we're not living in the moment of today, because more than likely those things will probably never happen.
Exactly. And we could prepare for the future, but we want to make the best at where we're at now. And we could glance and look back at the past, but we don't want to live in the past. That's why one of the things I'll even say to my audience is, no matter what age group, I'll say, I wish I could give you a match right now. They're thinking, what? I want you to go back and burn the bridge that you keep on walking across to go back to your past. Because all you have is now.
That's good.
And you know
like
what? You can't let the past. We want to close the door on the past, learn from the past, not run from the past. And here's the last thing I'll say on this. I say to my audiences, don't let your brokenness chase after you to define you. And that's what happens with many of us, Karen.
Absolutely.
In life. So that's my heart.
Now, besides schools, are there other organizations that you speak out, and how can somebody reach out to you if they'd like you to come speak?
Absolutely. The number one group I do are education groups. So I mostly speak to high schools, colleges, and universities, and middle schools. In the last 27 years, I've spoken to almost 5,000 high schools, middle schools, and colleges.
Wow.
And all those who work with them. So sometimes I'll go in and do teacher-in services or special days that work with the whole school district. But that's where 85% of my gigs come from. The other 15 to almost 20% come from professional sports teams, corporations, businesses, Special Olympics, Make-A-Wish Foundation, a little of everything else, which I treasure, love, and adore. And people could just reach out to my website, bobbypetrocelli.com, or bobby@10seconds.org is an email. They can also call me at 727-641-9245. That's our business number if they're looking at booking or bringing us in.
All right. Well, I appreciate your time. I know that you are very busy. You're going to go speak at one of our schools here in Chesapeake right after this interview. So.
It'll be my third school this week, and then tomorrow will be our fourth school. So we're hitting 4 schools in Chesapeake. We have had a phenomenal time up to this point.
Well, we appreciate you taking the time out to talk to us today.
Thank you, Karen, so much. I'm honored.